This is part 2, episode 135. What are the demons planning? His thoughts running amok, Chiu Yonghao suddenly trembled, thinking about that one weakest, and yet most dangerous individual amongst them. Golden Knight, be careful. Grab someone beside you. Chiu Yonghao's loud shout reverberated through the skies almost immediately. With his level of cultivation, spreading his voice to Long Haochen's range was naturally no issue. In the meantime, Chiu Yonghao led the group of powerhouses straight toward the outside of the fortress. Golden Knight, that was without a doubt destined to be Long Haochen. While fully using halos, he naturally recognized Chiu Yonghao's voice, however these words puzzled him. Grab someone. What does he mean, ? In that instant of hesitation, Long Haochen suddenly felt an indescribable pressure abruptly land onto him. Then a sudden surge of panic reached his mind, as he felt an extremely unpredictable threat. But any powerhouse has a strong desire of control, especially over themselves. They are used to be in control of everything within the scope of their ability. And in case something becomes beyond their control, they'd immediately have feelings of panic, which was Long Haochen's current state. A perfectly straight, brilliant dark blue ray traveled through the dense black fog, aiming right for Long Haochen and toward the southeastern fort. That instant, Long Haochen felt his body becoming suddenly stiff, as a choking terrible psychic force instantly seized him. Right at this time, his hand was raised, wanting to grab the nearby Hanyu. Speaking of something strange, that dark blue ray didn't inflict any damage to others. Even when passing through Hanyu's body, he didn't have the slightest awareness of that. It only had effects on Long Haochen. Kia, Wang Yuanyuan, Hanyu and Zhong Fangfang immediately realized that something was amiss. Hastening to where that attack was targeted, they found out, with overwhelming shock, that all they could do was futile. It seemed composed purely of light, not containing the slightest fluctuation of spiritual energy, and all their attacks landed on air. Long Haochen's body remained in a deadlocked position, as his figure clearly began to weaken. Right, Long Haochen was too slow to react. If he had immediately heeded Chiu Yonghao's call and grabbed Hanyu, he could have made it in time, but unfortunately, due to reflecting, he lost that opportunity. Still, as a god's chosen one, how could he resign himself helplessly to death? Although he didn't know what this dark blue ray would bring and sensed a great danger from it, he could, by successfully extinguishing it, end up escaping death narrowly. Long Haochen immediately attempted to use the abilities at his disposal on this situation of great danger. First, he thought of the divine snail shield, but found out with shock that only his mental force was usable. All his spiritual energy was already sealed by the dark blue ray, and unable to muster the slightest movement. Having lost the backup of his spiritual energy, no matter the strength of the equipment on him, he was unable to display their true might. Mental force, mental force. That dark green ray of light was about to succeed. And a fierce face came to Haochen's sight. Oh, that's right. No spiritual energy didn't mean that he couldn't activate his equipment. Not all of his equipment required spiritual energy for use. A golden radiance suddenly shot up on his chest. If he were to look carefully and from a close distance, he would find out that this radiance had the shape of a small skull. On the verge of death, Long Haochen wanted to activate the eternal melody, the transporting tool that had saved their lives many times already. No matter how powerful the enemy's ability was, as long as he made it out to the Tower of Eternity, what could they do about it? The eternal melody only required mental force for use, and didn't need any supply of spiritual energy. Through the eternal melody binding it to Long Haochen, the Tower of Eternity had been absorbing the external soul force. Especially after Long Haochen's addition to the Holy War, it had become even more greedy, and gradually felt like a monster awaking gradually from Long Haochen's view. The demon god of death Saminaga already became the greatest offering for the Tower of Eternity. If not for his prompt decision, he could very well have gotten directly swallowed by the tower. That time's assimilation of the domain of death gave great benefits to the Tower of Eternity. Afterwards, Long Haochen went a few more times on the battlefield, and a substantial number of the deceased souls were absorbed, supplying the tower with large soul energy. Long Haochen observed many times the eternal melody on his neck, and found out that the originally gold-colored skull was gradually forming golden flames pulsing in its eyes. This was as if it was coming alive, and further reinforced by connection with the Tower of Eternity. As more and more soul energy was absorbed, the feeling of scorching burn originally felt upon absorption disappeared gradually, to be replaced by a feeling of warmth. Its influence on Long Houchen also reduced gradually, and the feeling of substance it had made it feel like a huge supporter in Long Houchen's eyes. Only, he hadn't planned to use the supporter directly, and didn't know how he should. In his mind, he felt like a representative for the Tower of Eternity, making this latter his employer. It kept on absorbing the external soul energy, while doing nothing in return, and in the meantime he was totally unable to control the force of the Tower of Eternity. Of course, Long Houchen had also never attempted to exercise control over the Tower of Eternity. Only, the need of teleportation made him use it. If things were as he guessed, the Tower of Eternity should already be an intelligent divine tool. So it may not even be under the control of the slumbering calamity Elux. This made it even harder for Long Houchen to break away from it. Fortunately, even if it took advantage of Houchen in such way, it had already recognized him as its successor, and therefore never acted harmfully toward Houchen. Speaking of it, it's quite strange for the Tower of Eternity to be a divine tool so voracious towards souls. Long Houchen didn't reject it as much as Elux though. No matter what could be said, the Tower of Eternity not only helped him increase his strength, but furthermore saved his group's life multiple times. Without it, Long Houchen would already be dead in the demon's hands. Also, they wouldn't have already gained such accomplishment, or at least wouldn't have grown in strength so fast. Things really were as Long Houchen expected. While the other equipments were unusable, and even Yating couldn't be summoned, the eternal melody emitted her glow just as before. Under the cover of the deep blue ray, Long Houchen's body turned illusory, as if it could disappear at any time. And when the golden radiance appeared, the whole scene changed mystically. The golden radiance issued from his chest immediately merged with the surrounding dark blue ray, and these powerful psychic waves immediately became in disarray. To its owner's shock, the eternal melody not only fused together with that dark blue ray, but even extended toward the distant black fog from where it was shot. Almost in the blink of an eye, the dark fog and the deep blue trail on the fortress turned into a mix of deep blue and gold colors. In the sky, the temple head of the warriors, Chiu Yonghao's hand chopped at the distant black fog with a colossal sword intent letting out a huge golden trail of light. Right that instant, Long Houchen disappeared, as well as the interwoven deep blue and golden colors. At the same time, the originator of that deep blue ray, demon god of clear vision Crocell, disappeared as well. The entangled golden and blue-colored rays in the sky disappeared almost immediately. From the deep blue ray's appearance to its full disappearance, only 2 breaths had elapsed. And in such a short span of time, some individuals vanished alongside it. The instant Long Houchen disappeared, Kia, Han Yu, Wang Yuanyuan and Lin Xin instead calmed down. They knew Long Houchen very well, and the undulations of spiritual energy produced at the time of that instant disappearance told them that he had returned to the Tower of Eternity. And furthermore, thanks to the connection of the soul-binding chains, the 4 didn't sense any damage shared by them, which was to say that Long Houchen was out of danger at least for now. The Tower of Eternity was their secret, but also their safest place. After perceiving that Long Houchen had teleported back there, they immediately calmed down. Maybe he'd reappear in just a bit. What a shame that they didn't see the stupefied look of the angel demon god Paimon. In the midst of the use of his innate ability, the demon god of clear vision Crocell had disappeared alongside that enemy knight. The effects of teleportation to the Tower of Eternity relaxed Long Houchen greatly. Yet to his surprise, he very rapidly discovered that the deep blue ray adhering to his body hadn't disappeared, but was still entangled with the golden radiance from the Tower of Eternity. A tall silhouette also came to his sight. That teleportation was instantaneous, and it took only a flash for Long Houchen to appear in the first floor of the Tower of Eternity, and along with him was teleported the demon god of clear vision Crocell. Crocell's shock was far greater than Long Houchen's. The instant of the teleportation, he lost control of his innate ability, and was immediately then carried into a spatial transportation that he was unable to resist even at his level of cultivation. At the very moment, he couldn't help but spit a dark blue mouthful of blood. Originally, he was unlikely to suffer great damage and weakening with the angel demon god Payman's assistance. But during the process of the teleportation, his innate ability was still maintained, and interrupting it was impossible. Its continual use and the spatial travel's influence inflicted on him substantial damage. The stronger an ability gets, the greater the backlash it could carry, just like for a spiritual stove. This demon god of clear vision Crocell's own cultivation was actually insufficient for him to rank among the top 40-something. The 5 or 6 immediately lower-ranked demon gods were all above him in fighting strength. The reason why he could rank 49th was his innate ability. Crocell was known as the demon god of clear vision, able to scout out the enemy's true circumstances from a very large range. His magic belonged to the psychic type. At the same time, just like the great majority of the demon gods, he was a dual magic and martial cultivator. Any spell of illusion was useless in front of him. Also, his innate ability wasn't so powerful in itself, but things were different when he teams with other demon gods. This innate ability called Clear Vision's godly pull could, in a certain range, lock his mental force on an opponent, and it had a powerful teleportation effect, able to instantly teleport the target in front of him. In some sense, this Clear Vision's godly pull was a different approach producing the same results as the Saint's spiritual stove, only far more powerful than the latter. After all, the Saint's spiritual stove just pulled, whereas the Clear Vision's godly pull was capable of direct teleportation. Just think, if Crocell's teleportation had succeeded, Long Houchen would then be facing the instant surrounding of 8 great demon gods. No matter how gifted he could be, and even if he could unleash his whole strength promptly, and have the defense of his divine tools, the outcome would still be certain death. That's the encirclement of 8 great demon gods, giving one not the slightest chance. Of course, because of Clear Vision's godly pull's power, it has great limitations. Crocell can only use it once a day, and by only relying on his own demon god pillar, regardless of whether it succeeds or fails, it would put him in a very long state of psychic weakness. But that's unless another demon god consents to support him with his own mental force, greatly lessening this backlash. At the same time, Clear Vision's godly pull cannot be used against an enemy with a cultivation or mental force surpassing his own. As long as the enemy's spiritual energy or mental force exceeds his, the odds of success lower greatly. Another restriction is the warning that Qiu Yonghao gave. Clear Vision's godly pull can only be used on one target, so if Long Houchen had grabbed someone else, it would immediately have failed. That's the reason why the angel demon god Paimon released his angel domain, for the sake of covering up the use of his ability. This Clear Vision's godly pull already made the warrior temple suffer large losses. 4 powerhouses at the grade of War Emperor died this way in the demon god's hands. That's why the arrangement of Qiu Yonghao's formation was so tight. The powerhouses from the warrior temple were standing 2 by 2 to avoid leaving Crocell any chance. But Long Houchen was different. He had no prior knowledge of the demon god of Clear Vision Crocell's ability, which is what led to this. Someone walking frequently on the edge of a river has someday to wet his shoes. Crocell walked far too much along night roads, and finally met his nemesis, encountering this time Long Houchen. Long Houchen's natural mental force was exceptional, and far above powerhouses of the same level. But Crocell was after all a demon god of the 9th step, and with his magical attribute being the psychic attribute. As such, Houchen's mental force was still below his. Unless his cultivation breaks through the 9th step, he cannot compete with the demon god of Clear Vision. But that powerful mental force enabled Long Houchen to respond promptly. As the time required for the teleportation increased with the opposing mental force, Long Houchen had at his disposal a few seconds' time, and succeeded in activating the Tower of Eternity in this span. The Tower of Eternity obviously had a greater precedence than Clear Vision's godly pull. How could the demon god of Clear Vision compare to a supradivine tool-ranked existence? Moreover, Long Houchen was its successor, and someone he could count on to bring many more souls. In a time of great danger, this supra-divine tool would obviously come to his rescue. However, as Clear Vision's godly pull was in the end enhanced through the demon god's pillar's power, it also gained fantastic boosts, which is how this strange result happened. The angel of clear vision Crocell really managed to teleport Long Houchen in front of him, but at the same time Long Houchen relied on the Tower of Eternity, teleporting the two of them here by that way. The two teleportations had succeeded, but Long Houchen also escaped mortal peril. What's this place? How did you escape? Crocell was full of doubts and shock. Looking at the opposite Long Houchen, he couldn't help but ask, as in the meantime his hands separated, letting a long blade appear in between them. Black flames lit his long blade, and in the meantime, twisting undulations surrounded visibly Crocell's body. Facing the enemy that had countered his own clear vision's godly pull, he was extremely wary. At the time he discovered that Crocell was teleported to the Tower of Eternity alongside him, he was also in great shock. When Crocell asked that question, he drew back very swiftly, then the divine snail shield of sun and moon appeared in front of his chest. Opposite to Crocell's complete reaction of puzzlement, Long Houchen already guessed the truth of the matter from the current situation and the previous circumstances. I didn't escape, but countered your move. Long Houchen replied coldly, and from the powerful aura released by the enemy's body, he could determine that is a demon god. Just before, he seemed to have been beside the demon god leading the enemies. Long Houchen still remembered Crocell's appearance from that time. One could only admit that this demon god had very handsome looks, with the addition of the 6 wings on his back making him look even more captivating. Crocell had already calmed down, and wasn't impatient to attack Long Houchen. It's another space. Since you have the means to teleport here, you must naturally have the means to teleport back. Bring me out, and I'll spare your life. Stalling for time was to his advantage. Crocell was terrified of this space, but being after all a demon god expert at the psychic attribute, he had some understanding of this place. He knew that to be able to go through a spatial travel of this extent, Long Houchen surely had a kind of spatial key. By grabbing that spatial key, he naturally couldn't return back to Shingmordalu. But the most important was the psychic internal injury he had sustained. He couldn't see through Long Houchen, especially after his release of the divine snail shield. With his current injuries, he didn't have the complete confidence of being able to get away in one piece after killing Long Houchen. As such, he spoke to stall for time, and giving himself some time to recover. The enemy was after all only at the 8th step, so he had the full confidence of being able to kill Long Houchen, after recovering partly from the psychic internal injury. Back then, the last ranked snake demon god was already as cunning as a fox, to say nothing about the 49th ranked Crocell. Although he still didn't have a domain, his cultivation was thoroughly at the 9th step. Spare my life. What a pity, I have no plans to spare you. Long Houchen ridiculed him. Like Crocell was scheming against him, the same happened on his side. Long Houchen was now extending his senses fully, making an all-out effort to determine Crocell's level of cultivation. The enemy was without a doubt at the 9th step, but great differences existed between different powerhouses of the 9th step. Crocell's previous deep blue spit of blood couldn't be faked, and was a clear proof of wounds. However, Long Houchen didn't know about the intensity of his injury. The inside of the Tower of Eternity was like Long Houchen's main grounds. He was now determining the gap of strength between the two of them, and thus wouldn't rush into battle. In front of Crocell, Long Houchen was disadvantaged in terms of cultivation, but he had his own aspects of superiority. First, he was fully confident in preventing Crocell from connecting with his demon god pillar. A demon god having lost his pillar was like an ordinary powerhouse of the 9th step and no more. Secondly, the enemy was wounded, and no matter to what extent, at least he wasn't in good condition. And from his powerful mental force, his injury should be on the psychic side. Facing a powerhouse of psychic attribute, Long Houchen wasn't afraid in the slightest. Even the 12th ranked emo demon god Sytry had suffered the backlash of her own forbidden spell. In a fight of the 8th step against the 9th step, maybe he could really leave this demon god here forever. Thinking of that, Long Houchen's heartbeat couldn't help but accelerate. Should he fight the demon god in a duel? Although he had killed the goblin knight Seer, both Seer and Andromalius were still demon gods of the 8th step. Although they could temporarily reach the 9th step thanks to their demon god pillars, there was still a difference between the 9th step and that. Can I really win? Long Houchen didn't dare affirm with certainty, but already made his decision to give it a try in any case. This video will end here.